Hello, everyone. My name is David Apple, and I will be your host for today's webinar. Wanted to thank those joining us for the first time, as well as welcome back all of our loyal followers to our webinar series. Today's topic will be on patch management, presented by Michael Durrant. Michael is a pre-sales solutions architect here at Flycast Partners and has extensive experience in collaborating with clients on IT strategies. A recognized leader in effectively translating major business objectives into high-impact technical solutions. With over 15 years of IT experience, Michael is adept in analyzing customer needs and collaborating effectively with clients, assessing their needs and resolving issues. Before I hand things over to you, Michael, let me take a minute to introduce our organization, Flycast Partners. Flycast Partners is here to deliver a truly amazing IT experience. Founded and staffed by personnel who have many years of experience in the IT space, we took the best ideas from these experiences to provide the best components necessary to grow and become a leading value-added reseller and process consultant in North America. We offer best-in-class implementation services and training as it relates to IT service management, IT asset and endpoint management, capacity management, IT operations management, as well as endpoint security. Our professional services can scale up or down to the IT needs of any organization, regardless of your budgetary restrictions or the size of the project. We offer services both on-site and remote, as well as training. Our remote administration offerings will enable your organization to focus on your normal day-to-day operations, saving you precious time and money. I encourage you all to reach out to us. You can give us a call at 1-844-FLYCAST. That's 844-359-2278. Or simply visit our website and chat with one of our specialists. I invite you to look around, see our upcoming webinars, and sign up for those as well. And today we'll be kind of diving into patch management. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over the presentation mode over to you, Michael, so you can start and talk to us a little bit about Ivanti Patch Management.
Awesome. Thank you, David. And thank you again, everyone, for joining us today for another episode of the Ivanti Solutions set. And today we'll be talking about patch management. Let me go ahead and share my screen. David, let me know when you can see my screen and if you're hearing me okay.
Yep, I hear you well, and I see your screen and the presentation up there. It's perfect.
All right, perfect. So again, my name is Michael Durrant, your friendly neighborhood sales engineer. Thank you so much for joining us for another episode of the Ivanti Solution set. And I think it's fair that I give you a quick overview of who Ivanti is. There's a couple of reasons behind that, and I'll point them out here. So obviously they're a global company with over 27,000 customers, 1,700 employees, over 23 countries. Pretty large partner ecosystem, which we're proud of being Partner of the Year. And I think, David, you could comment on, I think we just received another award recently at Interchange. But a couple of things I want to point out. Obviously, they're privately owned, headquarters in Salt Lake City. But the areas I want to point out is when they were established. So I worked for a couple of, organizations as customers, in 2008, 2012. I also worked for them before they were Ivanti. But they were established in 1985. They have done over 10 acquisitions and obviously internal, development, organic growth of the product, the leading products that they had already provided, one of which you would see some high-level actions today. The other area I want to point out is, the endpoints they're managing, over 45 million. When you couple all of this together, you're looking at a breadth of experience, knowledge, data, and with the solutions through acquisitions, they're able to focus on a unified IT, approach. So, managing the identity of an end user through one of the acquisitions, you'll see here in a second that they've done through the Res acquisition, they've now able to provide identity management. What you would also see today is a little bit of endpoint management with the patch module. That's one of the applications I've worked with as an admin and used, lots of functions within that, including the patch manager. There's also security management, and endpoint security in terms, again, of patch and offering that through maybe a SCCM connector. So if you have an SCCM environment and it's working well for you, then we can provide that additional content to SCCM, which, you're probably not patching for today. There's also service management, which offers you insight to, how things are actually trending, how things are working, and providing notifications and dashboards and reporting for the audience that's necessary and those stakeholders. Asset management can allow you to, manage, through the ITAM policies, the full life cycle of the asset of the identity that you're managing. So, maybe that person is carrying, a tablet, a mobile device, maybe multiple devices. We can help you manage that through procurement, contracts, licensing through our asset management module. Now, how have they been able to do that? So through those acquisitions and, as I mentioned, organic development, one of the products that I'm using today in terms of content is Shavlik. So you see on this list in around 2013, a little further, they've acquired Shavlik, which is leading in the industry when it comes to patch management. And you would also get, with any of the purchases of an Ivanti solution, Extraction. Extraction is a business intelligent dashboard and reporting tool that allows you to, provide, again, those dashboards quickly without having to do any coding. It's a drag and drop interface, and it comes complementary with the purchase of any of these solutions. Speaking of these solutions, we'll be looking at the endpoint security area of Endpoint Manager, and we'll be looking at patch management. Now, these solutions are available, cloud on-premise. The integrations are already there, built across these platforms. Again, through Extraction, you can use the pre-built connectors to report on, things that are relevant to you. So as that identity moves through your environment, maybe that person gets married, maybe they move to a different job and you need to identify where they are, you can provide that through the dashboards and manage that through the identity manager. I talked about, the different patch modules, patch options that you have with Ivanti. The first one here on the left is patch for SCCM. There's a pre-built connector that allows you to connect those third-party applications to your SCCM environment and provide that patch content for your endpoints. There's also the security controls, which expands on that content, which allows you to do things like application control, privilege management around, the needs of the organization. And today, we'll be looking at what I've worked with as a customer, the Endpoint Manager, which doesn't only do patching, it does, provisioning, software distribution, app and device control, remote control, anti-malware, threat alerting, also helps you manage, as a extra layer to your antivirus solutions as well. So yes, the patch module within Ivanti Endpoint Manager, obviously comes with all of these different capabilities. And the good thing is it's all rolled into one console. And this console can be farmed out to a VM to, remote administrators to, conduct certain actions against the necessities of that organization. And, within this module, there's automation processes. So what I've used it for, when I first saw this slide, made me chuckle, is, automating my patch process. A patch process could, sometimes take days, in testing with pilot groups. With this solution, we can provide an automation process which can reduce, those days to minutes within your month on a monthly basis to help you along, get into to maybe some more important things or projects that may have been, on the shelf. again, insight, right? Having a view into really what's going on. So within the EPM solution, there are dashboards in which you can see, how your environment, sort of an estate view of how things are within your, environment from a patch and compliance standpoint. And this is an out-of-the-box example, showing you things like your inventory scan rate, machines that are, most infected, computers, scan summaries, and all things that may be relevant. And these are all editable dashboards as well. And then with the extraction module, this is an example of, some of the dashboards that you can build on the fly or come out of the box with these connectors that provide things like patch and impact severity, in which, in examples of, in my past positions, executives wanted to be able to see this. Security departments wanted to be able to have a view into this type of data. And without this module, we were using things, multiple systems to do that. And this comes to you with no additional cost. Again, here's some additional examples of, maybe looking at your patch bulletins, top vendor patches, your vulnerabilities across your environment, and making, different views for different audiences as they require them. So this is all done in this console, and without further ado, we're going to jump into the actual product itself and talk to some of those specific areas. All right. So this reminds me, takes me back a couple of years of, what my daily job was like in using this. What you're looking at is the endpoint management solution and the patch and compliance module. Here, again, I'm seeing an overview of my patch and compliance, and as I showed you in the slide earlier, I can look at, specific areas. These are actionable, so I can drill into any of these areas at any time and pull up those data elements so I can see a history on that particular machine. And I can have, multiple areas in which, what is installed, what is detected, and go into each of those patches and create tasks to deploy them. But first of all, I want to talk about what makes Ivanti somewhat unique in the industry in terms of what they patch. So we patch Linux, Mac, and Windows environments from one console. We deliver these patches with an SLA of 48 hours from vendor to your endpoints. Within these modules, within this content, we can expand on things like your hardware-independent drivers to allow you to update those as well to specific machines. We also help along with your antivirus. So what we can do is go out and while an agent is on that machine is, look at maybe your antivirus content to make sure it's updated or not. And depending on what you're using, maybe a Panda antivirus, Symantec, Bitdefender, one of those, we can always cover you by selecting that particular content. In terms of the vulnerabilities, we do cover the vulnerabilities on Microsoft in terms of the Windows area. We do cover all of the applications, third-party applications, because, within environments, it has been determined that 83% of your vulnerabilities come from third-party applications. So, for those of you who are not, patching third-party applications, maybe just your Windows OSs, you're probably only covering 17%. Now, there's about 70% of organizations in the U.S. that's only patching Windows updates. So we can help you in that area in terms of those updates and the content, and then manage that to a scheduled download and delivering those to your end users. Now, in terms of how you can manage how that content is delivered, we talked about automation. So within the endpoint management system, there is a project rollout, and this doesn't only apply to patching, but within the environment that I've used, this is an example of what I did. So this patching phase consists of 6 phases. The first phase is the pilot group, and within that phase, I may be only scanning for specific vulnerabilities. I'm not fixing the vulnerabilities. I'm just scanning to see if we are vulnerable against these patches. Okay, to get this patch content in here, I typically will, go over to my patches area. Patches that come in, I can direct them to specific, folders, some that I may have created, but they will typically come down to unassigned. I can grab any of these unassigned and drag them into my patch process, and they will, allow me to trigger them from any of these phases. So once I've scanned this first group and I get a result saying, hey, you're vulnerable against these patches, I can then move on to the next group, which is my next phase, which is my repair phase. And I'll give you an example of what is involved in that repair phase. Some specific areas that may be relevant for you. The scan settings. How are we handling delivering those patches? We'll look at those settings here in a second, in a couple of minutes, actually. When we look at the agent settings, you can have multiple different scan settings for different environments. So, if there's your server environment, your desktop environment, a specific department group, you can have different settings for that. The other area is your targets. So, I don't have any target devices here, but I can go out within my inventory and grab those, search against those specific targets, and bring them into my the phases that I'm targeting those machines on. The other area that you want to look at is your success criteria. So you may want to run this, this process or repair process for a specific amount of days, hours, weeks, months, whatever you want to set this to, so that you can say, hey, I'm going to let this run for, started on Tuesday until Friday, a couple of days, and once that is done, we'll determine that as our success criteria. There's additional duration requirements that you can set as well. Approvals, there's an approval required. You can set that as well around maybe getting an email approval, so that you can move forward in terms of, hey, these things are actually delivered correctly, they're working, they're in place. Can I move to the entire environment because we've already tested these? And then as that next phase, completes, it will move on and so forth. Now, in terms of the content, once you've determined that and your pilot groups have already been determined, you can simply click on this and play this project, and it will go ahead and trigger each of these actions for you, reducing, as I mentioned, days out of your month to minutes out of your month in terms of patches. Now, obviously, to complete the patch process, there is a reboot requirement, and we do help you control that as well. What I'm looking at now is the agent settings. So these agent settings help you control things like how you, in terms of distributing software, patches, specific settings for machines, to mobile devices, all of those. But what we'll look at today is a reboot setting. So you can have multiple settings in which you apply to, again, specific groups or departments. So let's look at some of the examples we have here. In the general settings, we can determine if a machine is already in a reboot process. And if it is, we'll just follow that process. We won't even bother to notify you. We'll just go ahead with that process. That's perfect. You're doing it already. We can, take that action. And there are multiple settings that you can take here as well. In terms of prompting the user, if that previous example was not in place, we can notify that user. So within this particular area, this will be a pop-up that's letting them know that your machine has been slated for a reboot. And we can allow them to, defer that reboot, in which we can control those deferrals. So one of the examples I've seen my colleagues do is, and some customers, is defer that for 2 hours and allow you to defer that 4 times a day. So that gives you 8 hours to defer from, allowing a reboot so that patch can complete. And on the 5th one, we'll just, prompt you that we're going to head to reboot that system. So in terms of the automatic reboots, there are global settings and again, specific agent settings as well. Now, in this example, we can set, automatic reboot if a certain condition is in place. An example of this is take maybe a development group, you're patching them, someone, leaves their machine logged in, a compiler is running, and, the machine is not attended. You don't want to have to reboot that, because if you, stop that compiler, that developer will not be happy. So maybe that you had a setting of, the deadline, doesn't exceed 7 days, and that compiler has to run for 8. So you can set, hey, make sure that, no one is logged in, so that, there's no count running any specifics on that machine, and you can set the duration on to wait to make sure that there's nothing running. Now, this particular function was actually, recommended by a colleague of mine. So at one of the organizations we worked, Intercontinental Hotels Group, one of my colleagues there that went on to work for Ivanti had required this, and I'll give you a little story behind that. So during the patch process, he was able to deliver patches, again, globally. And the CIO was in England, I believe, doing a presentation, and his machine got patched, and a reboot notification popped up. Now, the way the story was told to me, on one hand, my colleague was very excited that he was able to reach across the globe and patch this machine and secure it. On the other hand, the CIO was not that impressed that his, PowerPoint presentation was sort of minimized, and this pop-up telling him that, hey, we need to reboot your machine. So there are settings now. This is what Ivanti came up with, allowing you to defer if certain actions are running on the machine. Things like executable. So PowerPoint, if PowerPoint is running, in terms of, any processes running, or when you went in full screen, do not do anything with that machine. Wait until those are done. Now, you can import additional settings from other, maybe environments if you have colleagues that already have those, or you can go ahead and add them on the fly here if you need to. Now, what's really good as well in terms of, security parameters is branding. So, we in that environment that I worked in, there are areas that were, maybe attacked quite a bit. And with this solution covering such a broad range of vulnerabilities, we're able to detect and remediate those issues. Now, one of the ways that we helped to the end user is through branding and identifying who we were. So, here's an example of maybe a pop-up that can, come into a user's desktop when you're deploying or asking them to reboot. You can customize this with your company logos and, something that shows that it is coming from your secure IT department, so they can go ahead and proceed in the event that you're allowing them to, take actions on those pop-ups. All right, so with that said, I'll give you a quick overview of the extraction module. So this is the extraction module. It can be web-based. You can host it on-premise. It gives you, quite a bit of out-of-the-box dashboards. Some examples that I showed you in those slides. And these are interactive, right? So I can click into any of these data elements and view the records. I can filter on the components, so the adjacent, widgets will filter down to those specific data points that I'm asking it to do. Or just go into the records so I can see all of the records that are associated with that particular data element. Now, these dashboards can be scheduled. They can be presented on large screens, so, for specific audiences. And the configurations of them are pretty easy. So once you have your data elements connected, which is provided through an administration, console for this tool, you connect with specific parameters to your data pools. And then within those selections, you then have, a listing of either, using a new template, creating a new one, maybe importing a specific template, uploading one, downloading a particular template to create these dashboards. And then from here, you can start drag and drop in elements, into these particular areas of these dashboards. Any of these columns can be dragged on here to change the element of what's being displayed, and you can save that to your dashboards. You can save that to favorites and provide quick and easy, business intelligent KPIs, so you can have insight into all of the necessary areas of something like a patch management specific area, along with even connecting to non-Ivanti solutions. If you're using SCCM within your environment, we can give you connectors to see things around if you're using that third-party patching from Shavlik, which is an Ivanti product, you can see a very rich dashboard already prepared for you. So with this Ivanti extraction solution, you can take advantage to see without using, without having to use the, if you already use a patch solution of SCCM within your environment. So with that said, I think I'm going to commence on the product overview and open up for any questions you may have. I urge you to reach out to a one-off demonstration of any of the products within the Ivanti solution kit. We'll be happy to give you a deeper dive into any of these areas that may have piqued your interest. So I'll open up to David for any questions, and thank you so much to everyone for joining us today.
Thank you, Michael, for that presentation and overview. Don't have any questions in the queue right now, but I do want to remind everybody who's logged in that there is a Q&A section on the WebEx. And if you have any questions, we'll take a couple more seconds here to see if any pop in. And Michael will be happy to answer those during the presentation today. If you think of any questions later and you'd like to know more information, definitely do reach out to us at info@flycastpartners.com or jump onto our website, chat with one of our specialists, as well as give us a call at 844-FLYCAST. That's 844-359-2278. Michael, I don't see any more questions popping up, so I think you probably covered everything pretty well. And I would thank you again for the presentation, and I thank everyone else for attending as well.
Thank you so much, David, and thank you everyone for attending.